Most people think the story of Pandora is about curiosity, a simple warning about what happens when someone can't leave something alone. A woman is given a jar and told not to open it, and like so many stories about curiosity, it ends badly. She opens it, and everything escapes into the world: disease, suffering, grief, all the things that make life harder than it was before. And that feels like the lesson. Don't ask too many questions. Don't push past the boundary. Don't touch what you've been told to leave alone. But the story doesn't really hold up that simply, because the more you look at it, the more it feels like something else is happening. Because Pandora wasn't simply curious, she was made that way. And the jar wasn't just there by accident, it was given to her. And that raises a different question entirely. Was Pandora's curiosity really the problem? Or was the outcome already decided the moment she was created? Before Pandora appeared in the story, the world of humans is described as something almost unrecognizable compared to what we know now. There's no disease, no constant struggle, no exhausting cycle of effort just to maintain some kind of stability. Life exists in a simpler, more contained state. The gods rule from above, and humans exist beneath them, limited but stable. And that limitation matters because it's what keeps everything in place. Humans don't have too much knowledge. They don't have too much independence. They don't push beyond what they've been given. But that balance isn't permanent. It's fragile, and it only works as long as nothing changes. And the moment Prometheus gives fire to humanity, that balance is broken. Because fire isn't just warmth or light, it's knowledge, it's progress. It's the beginning of humans no longer needing to stay in the place where they were put. And once that happens, the world can't stay the same. To Zeus, that act isn't small. It's not just theft, it's defiance. Because fire gives humans the ability to change things, to build, to learn, to move beyond what they were originally meant to be. And that's the real problem. It's not about what was taken, it's about what it allows. Because once humans start thinking, questioning, creating, they stop being easy to control. And Zeus understands that. So his response isn't just about punishing Prometheus. It's about addressing the larger problem, humanity itself. And instead of responding with something obvious, something direct, he chooses something quieter, something that doesn't look like punishment at all, something that enters the human world without resistance. Because the most effective changes don't feel like force, they feel like choices. If you like looking at these stories a little differently, please consider subscribing. So, Zeus orders something new to be made. Not a weapon, not a disaster, but a person, the first woman. And each god contributes something to her. Aphrodite gives her beauty, Athena gives her intelligence and skill, Hermes gives her charm, persuasion, and something harder to define, something that makes people listen, something that makes them trust. And mixed into all of that is curiosity, not as a flaw, but as part of her design. Her name is Pandora, often translated as all gifted, because she is made up of everything the gods decide to give her. But those gifts aren't neutral. They aren't random. They serve a purpose. Because Pandora isn't just being created to exist. She's being created to enter a world that has already changed, and to continue that change in a way that feels natural, in a way that doesn't feel forced. Then there's the jar. Pandora doesn't arrive empty-handed. She's given something to carry with her, something sealed, something unexplained, and she's told one thing: do not open it. That's it. No explanation, no reasoning, just a boundary. And that's where the tension starts to build, because the instruction is simple, but the situation isn't. The jar is there, it's present, it's part of her life now, and she doesn't know what's inside it. And that's the part that matters. Because unanswered questions don't stay quiet. They don't fade into the background. They sit there. They build. They become something you notice even when you're trying not to. And the more time passes, the less it feels like a warning, and the more it feels like something you're being kept from. And that shift, from "don't do this" to "why can't I?" that's where curiosity starts to take over. Eventually, it happens. Not in some dramatic, explosive way, but in a moment that probably feels small when it's happening. Pandora opens the jar, and in that instant, everything changes. All the things that weren't part of the world before suddenly are. Pain, suffering, disease, conflict, everything that makes life complicated and difficult escapes into the world. And she reacts the way anyone would. She closes it. She tries to undo it. But it's already done. And it's easy to stop there, to treat that as the moment everything goes wrong, to point at that decision and say that's the mistake. But that only works if you ignore everything that led up to it. Because the jar didn't open itself, but it also wasn't random. It was placed there. It was given to someone designed to understand it. And that makes the moment feel less like a failure and more like something that was always going to happen. There's the part that doesn't quite resolve. When Pandora closes the jar, one thing remains inside: hope. And that's where the story gets strange because it's not clear what that means. On the surface, it sounds comforting, that even after everything is released into the world, something remains to help people endure it, something that keeps them going. But there's another way to look at it, because hope doesn't remove suffering. It doesn't undo anything that was released. It just sits alongside it. It keeps people moving forward, even when things don't improve the way they expect. And that creates a different kind of tension, because hope can feel like relief, but it can also feel like something that keeps you attached to outcomes that never fully arrive. And the story never tells you which one it is. It just leaves it there, unresolved. This is where the story shifts, because if you only look at it as a warning about curiosity, it doesn't fully make sense. Because curiosity isn't something you can remove. It's not something people can just turn off. It's the thing that drives learning, discovery, and change. It's what pushes people to ask questions, to look deeper, to move beyond what they've been told. And that's the contradiction at the center of Pandora's story. The same thing that brings suffering into the world is the thing that allows humanity to grow. Without curiosity, nothing changes. But with it, everything does. And that makes the story less about right and wrong and more about consequence. Because curiosity doesn't just reveal things, it changes the world you're in. Pandora feels familiar because it's not really about her. It's about that moment where you're faced with something you don't fully understand, something you've been told to leave alone, something that sits in front of you long enough that it starts to feel like a question instead of a boundary. And you already know how this works. You've had those moments. Not with a jar, but with situations where something doesn't sit right, where there's a line you probably shouldn't cross, where you can feel the hesitation before you move forward anyway. And it doesn't feel like a major decision when it's happening. It feels small, manageable, like something you can deal with later if it turns into a problem. But that's the part that repeats, the gap between what you know and what you choose. Because curiosity doesn't feel dangerous in the moment, it feels natural. It feels like understanding. And maybe that's the point of the story. Not that curiosity is wrong, but that it always comes with a cost. And the question isn't whether people will ask questions, it's whether they're ready for what happens when they get the answer.